My name is Tony Kire Galandi. I work with Diamond Advocates, where I'm employed as a managing partner. It will be very unchristian of me not to recognize my sponsors, Diamond Advocates. Otherwise, they will not allow me to sit in their space tomorrow. Today is something really very, very exciting. And it must be a concern for both lawyers and litigants. Not so long ago, our President Uganda Law Society started to sail with a boat in the sea. And he took that wild decision and said, I think it is time for us to embrace digital transformation. He made it one of his key pillars in his campaigns. It looked like a wild card in the jungle. Today, now we can comfortably have a conversation about courts going purely paperless. So for me, I'm very glad that I'm having President Isaac Semakade on this call, because he started this conversation among the advocates. We are remaining with less than 21 days, approximately, for courts that onboarded on the electronic case management system to go fully paperless as per the practice guidelines that were issued by Dr. Zeija, the Chief Justice. Now, this is not completely new in African jurisdictions. Jurisdictions like Kenya started this before us. There's been significant impact on the backlog. Digital transformation and the call for courts to go digital is not alien to our judicial system. In fact, the call for digital transformation in the judiciary starts way back at the time when Justice Egonda Ntende spearheaded this. And in between there, Justice Kiriabwire was at the forefront of this. From the bar perspective, we look at it from the time when Isaac Semakade decided to make it one of his expected deliverables for his term of office. And it's not an alien subject in our judicial systems, in Africa particularly. In Kenya, they embraced this digital practice before us. And research by Legotech, I think it's the Legotech Institute, showed that Kenya's backlog reduced by 30%. Rwanda has done the same. Every other day that passes, there is a person out there who is lamenting. Why? Because his or her judgment has taken 9 years, has taken 20 years. So the call for a paperless system comes in at a time when we are yearning for it. Already, as we speak, the introduction of ECMIS now saves that prisoner in Luzira who is able to survive the scorch of being in that bus from Luzira to here simply to come for a mention. It saves that lawyer whose chambers are in Arua to drive 500 kilometers to come and file a matter at commercial court. Clearly, there are benefits. And we commend the judiciary. I had the opportunity today of attending the Radical New Bar presentation today. And the president gave a very compassionate speech where he acknowledges and says, look, we are happy with the digital the digital route. So all of us, yes, appreciate that the adoption of digital practice is a game changer in legal practice. It's a benefit for the litigants. It's a benefit for the lawyers. However, there are unanswered questions. And that's why we are having this topic today: courts, counsel, and cybersecurity. Maybe on another conversation, we will be discussing courts, counsel, and justice for all. I would be very glad to host my president, the indomitable soldier for human rights and justice. So today we are having a very, very, very special guest. And this special guest is none other than Mr. Chagara Emmanuel. Very hard man to catch. Mr. Chagara Emmanuel is the CEO and founder of Mirima Technologies and Cyber Academy. I think it's the only cyber academy we have in the country, at least the one I know. Mr. Chagara Emmanuel revolutionized cybersecurity in this country. He's a common face when it comes to cybersecurity. He has advised Bank of Uganda, he has advised NITA, he has collaborated with UCC. Mr. Chagara, we are grateful. And I can tell you that we see the impact. That's the reason we have you here.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chagara Emmanuel runs a company that is having partnerships with a number of international entities in cybersecurity. He holds a bachelor's of computer science, computer engineering from the mighty Busitema University. He also has a master's in cybersecurity, I will put it that way. And he's not an everyday super cybersecurity expert. He has advised big entities. And the reason why we needed a Chagara today is because courts are going paperless, at least for those that are already onboarded on the IKIMI system, 21 days from now, paperless. And there are conversations that are disturbing the lawyers, that are disturbing the litigants. And I will limit those conversations to the cybersecurity school of thought. You realize, as lawyers, we are custodians of the client's secrets, of the client's confidential documents. And unfortunately, the thieves, the people who break into lawyers' offices now are not using hammers. The people who are going to hack into the judiciary system are not going to come with pangas now. Of course, we have had cases where we have had people unethically going to ransom, law firms for lawyers' offices. We had an incident during, I think, the Mama and Baba's case, where they broke into a lawyer's chambers to steal vital documents. And it paralyzed a whole election petition. The question is, today now, the people, if you can have 2, 3 people, 5, 6 break into chambers of a firm and take very crucial documents, that paralyzes a full election petition. What is going to happen when there is a lapse, which we have not, when there is a lacuna, when there is that pigeonhole we have left uncovered, as we rush to being paperless, and tomorrow we have a world judicial system shut down. And tomorrow we have Diamond Advocates Chambers, which is having all its data and everything on the system shut down, simply because in one way or another, one of the associates was accessing a website for judiciary, or was filing something, and before he realized, a hacker has used that link and is in the system and is deleting or transferring documents and asking for ransom. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would want to take the honor, first of all, like I said, to welcome Mr. Chagara Emmanuel. And I also want to request that our president stays on, and we should be able to speak to us as we wind up this call later. We would want to hear from him. But before that, I want to take this opportunity to welcome Mr. Chagara Emmanuel, CEO. I call him top city cybersecurity expert. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Counsel Tony, this has been an honor, and indeed I have looked forward to this conversation. Issues around cybersecurity and law. Law is still, I am sure, there. But on aspects of cybersecurity, it's always an exciting conversation to have. And I also want to commend you for the work you're doing and the entire law society. I think you guys are doing an incredible job when it comes to the need for digitalization right now. It goes without saying that it is cutting across every sector. And I am very happy. I must commend the president, Mr. Semakade, and all of you, the team that are rallying behind this very noble cause. The demand for evolution in terms of how we do work. Right now, if anyone is still holding on to paper and holding on to the obsolete form of using systems and doing work, they are going to kill themselves. You're going to find that you have been left behind, whether be it in the health sector, in the finance sector, transportation, all the way legal. The need for evolution and embracing of digitalization is now goes without saying. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me. I do hope that we can have a very productive conversation, of course, using simple English.
Of course, using simple English.
Yes.
Of course, using simple English.
Absolutely.
Jargons are our tools of trade, Chagara. Eh? It's like when we also meet you and you start talking of fishing, things.
And you have to keep the language
complicated.
So the client knows.
The cyber clad, the cyber shield. So when we also decide, we also want to have these jargons, my friend. That's how we manage you. But since the request, you have made your prayers,
Yeah.
I promise you that your prayers have been granted. We are not going to have jargons.
Thank you.
And since this podcast is listened to both litigants and lawyers and non-lawyers, surely we try to make it as plain as we can. In fact, as you can check from our topic, we have kept it simple.
Absolutely.
Yeah, courts, counsel, cybersecurity, navigating the paperless frontier. And for the name, that word frontier, blame it on Adam. Otherwise, for me, I would have kept it simple.
We shall find out.
So, Chagara, first of all, I have described Chagara the way I understand Chagara.
Yeah.
And I would want Chagara to introduce himself. Who is Chagara in just 1 minute? One minute. So that people get to know who Chagara is. Yeah? And don't hide those qualifications you want to always hide from me. Where every time you meet me, you say, I'm a simple man with a simple profile. No, today, no simple man with a simple profile. Thank you. Over to you, Emma. Thank you.
Thank you. Indeed, it is Chagara Emmanuel, I would describe as a simple man. But however, so I am a cybersecurity expert. The CEO of Milima Security, which is also called Milima Technologies Limited, and Milima Cyber Academy. I also serve as a member on several boards, including recently I was on the board for NITA on IT certification, that is National IT Authority. I also serve on the Alliance for Trade for Information Technology Services, that is ETIS, which is a body that brings together IT companies of Uganda that are exporting across the region. I am also a member of the European Union CyberNet program. This is an expert pool that brings together about 400 cybersecurity experts from across the world, mostly from the European region, but also from friendly countries such as Uganda to the EU. So we work closely with them on several projects within the EU, within Latin America, and in Africa. I am a father to very three aggressive boys. So very privileged with that role as well. So I think in a nutshell, that is Chagara. I am ISO certified on 20701, that is Information Security Management Systems, on 4201, which is Artificial Intelligence Implementation, plus others that you mentioned earlier with engineering and the rest. So it's indeed a pleasure to be here and also create some value for the country.
Wow. You know, when this man describes himself as a simple man, he's a simple profile. He's a liar, you can clearly see. He's not a simple man with a simple profile. He's actually a simple man with a complicated profile. But I like one last line.
Yeah.
I am a father with 3 aggressive boys. You know, I love that line.
Yeah.
Because it caused somebody trouble one time. I was one time having a conversation with President Isaac, and he says, you know, one time in Kenya, Mwai Kibaki was not declaring some of these assets. And so I'm glad you have declared these assets. I'm sure Miss Dean is sure that you have declared that you are not available. That was one of the camps. But
I don't want to be forced to call another press,
press
press
conference.
conference.
Yeah, so Mr. Chagara, I would just want to make this conversation as plain as it can. I want to give you one overview on how our system runs.
Yeah.
So the current system we run today is in such a manner that you have Agri, okay, who is a lawyer for Tony. So we have a system, it's an electronic case management and information system, which was rolled out by the judiciary. Now, this system works in such a manner that Agri, who is my lawyer, can be able to have pleadings and file online without necessarily going to court, okay? Agri can be able to actually even generate a payment system and it pays online. It can also track this, the case and is able to receive summons. It's an interactive system, okay? So that's the brief, say, about how that system works. Is it a local system? As far as I know, no, it's not. The last I checked was, I think, system provided by LexisNexis. You and know, me and know that LexisNexis is a foreign country. And right there, I would want you to underline on why, first of all, we should be worried or we should be excited. Number two, the system requires you to be online for you to work. Okay? You need to have internet, so to say. So that's the little bit, the general overview of this system. You are a cybersecurity expert, top state cybersecurity expert. Top global, so to say. When we talk of going paperless, in the current circumstances, in the next 3 weeks, you have interacted with mid-law firms because you have advised. You have interacted with big law firms. You have also, at the same time, trained some judicial officers. And right there is where I want to pose my first question. Looking at where you sit, from the cybersecurity position, law firms, more especially mid-law firms, which are the biggest number, ready from a cybersecurity point of view, in your opinion, and from your analysis, are they ready for this paperless transformation in the current state? Considering it from the perspective of a cybersecurity expert. Right there, what's your overview?
Thank you. So, Counsel, you have raised quite a number of issues. Firstly, you have raised the issue around provision of ICMIS by a foreign company, and also the level of preparedness of our local law firms to address paperless, the migration to paperless. And I want to start by the issue of ICMIS. First of all, it's a very commendable thing that the judiciary has embraced ICMIS, which significantly reduces the cost of operation for any law firm or any private lawyer who is trying to get through to serve their client. When we think about, from even your example you gave, imagine having a lawyer board from Arua to come and file a case at commercial court simply because they could not access any online portal for that. So you find that we have reached a time where technology is inevitable. In fact, for us, we say technology is an enabler. We no longer treat technology as some isolated sector or some special thing that we have to look at separately. Technology is cutting across all the sectors, as I started off by mentioning. And so, similarly, we cannot isolate it when it comes to judicial system and the services. Um, in recent times, there has been a growing demand for localization of services. There is a question around technology sovereignty, or and not or and data sovereignty. Okay, these are growing conversations that are taking central stage in the evolving geopolitical times. We have observed a significant geopolitical shift in the way the world is functioning, from collaborations to economic blocks to all of these funding and sponsorships. Okay, United States can wake up one day and declare Uganda an aggressive state, and for that matter, they apply sanctions on us. And the next thing we know, we have no access to a lot of technologies that come from the US. This concern is now a growing concern for many countries across the world. To what extent are we relying on foreign technologies to carry on with our livelihood and build our economies? This concern has led to the conversation around technology sovereignty. As a matter of fact, I want to commend the government of Uganda. The government has in recent times been pushing hard on Bubu. Now, most times when we hear buy Uganda, build Uganda, yes, that's a conversation that's been going on. Sometimes it's lazy talk, I must say, especially when there are no policies to support it. For example, if there is a bid and you're saying buy Uganda, build Uganda, but you have allowed it as an open bid, anyone can bid from anywhere in the world, you have no protection for Ugandan bidders. But then on the flip side, in recent times, we have also been seeing an increasing drive, an intentional effort from the government to fund local technologies in a bid to promote that sovereignty. Because the question around who is providing us this technology, what could they potentially do to us tomorrow where we will have no control over it? It's a big question that is going on at governance level now. Okay. Um, so when you say that ICMIS is provided by a foreign company, well, I am sure it went through the necessary bidding processes and qualified. But as time goes by, there will be more conversations around uh, the security of these products. If there is an incident that needs immediate incident response, and then we find that the team that is capable of fixing this needs to fly in 48 hours later, and that is the earliest time they can reach here. 48 hours is very late for any form of incident response. Okay? But if you had a local provider who are 30 minutes away, they will drive to your facility and address the issue. So these are the conversations that are now being had. It brings in a very big question around our data rights and all of that. So that is what I would comment from that question you raised about ICMIS. But moving on to the preparedness for our law firms. Um, for many of us, and especially law firms, I must point out, technology has not been a priority. At a bare minimum, when you go to a law firm, you'll find that there is a Wi-Fi access point, there is a router, and maybe an access, biometric access to get into the facility.
Sure.
That's the bare minimum. So when you ask them, what are you using technology? What do you use technology for on a daily? Oh, we do emails, we have ICMIS, we have internet.
Done.
Done. There are no servers. There are no paper file management systems. Okay. And definitely, if these things are not there, then security controls are also lacking. As we think about going paperless, there are many considerations that must be had. Remember, going paperless is not just implementation of ICMIS, because ICMIS is already in existence. Going paperless means that law firm should have the ability to manage most of their records or all of their records paperless as well. Okay? If you ask how many law firms have file servers, not very many. Okay? What are some of the security controls on these file servers? Okay? Now, a file server is not enough. There has to be a document management system. That is an advanced function of a file server. A document management system allows you to have full control of a particular case or file. Who uploaded it? Who made the edits on it? Who transferred it where? Was it downloaded? Has it been sent on email? Now you have more control of it. Because when we're thinking about going paperless, we have to be thinking about, first of all, the technologies that enable us to go paperless. All right? I've talked about file servers. I've talked about DMS. I've talked about these routers and firewalls. They help to enable you to go paperless. Okay? Now, once you have gone paperless, how do we secure? You mentioned that there was a break-in a Mama and Baba's case. That break-in can now be done without anyone breaking the door. It can be done remotely. You come to office and you find your server has been wiped clean. You have no record of anything. You see that?
Yeah.
So we have to now start thinking along those lines. What are some of the security controls that we should put in place? Okay? Cybersecurity should not be treated as an afterthought. And unfortunately, for most people, and this not just affects law firms, for most people, they treat it as, now that we have all these things in place, how do we secure it? That's that's a failed plan. What we recommend usually is what we call secure by design. All right? If a law firm, if a lawyer is listening in on this conversation and you're thinking, now we want to go paperless, the question of security should come from the design stage of the paperless approach. All the way. If we say we want to go paperless, then we have to ask ourselves, what are the technologies we're going to put in place? What are the security controls we shall have there? How do we ensure that right from the get-go, from the ground zero, security is a part of it? Let me give you an example. There was a client we did a security audit for, and we found after an incident had occurred, significant loss to information. We go and say, give us the logs. There were no logs. We said, how come you have no logs? He said, oh, our router only retains logs for 24 hours. I said, wow. That means there was no security by design. Okay? There was no assumption that at one point there could be a cyber attack that needs you to have access logs. Okay? So activity logging, access logging, these are fundamental tools to have within your environment. You see that? So all in all, what I want to summarize with is, when we're thinking about going paperless, we have to think about the technologies that enable it. And when we're thinking about these enabling technologies, we have to ensure that security is at the design level of those technologies to enable us to go paperless.
Wow. What a wonderful lecture. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tony Kire Galandi, and we are on Lego Tech Dialogues, a podcast where we sit down and discuss digital solutions in Lego practice. And we are hosting none other than the global trotting cybersecurity expert, Mr. Chagara Emmanuel. And I think the take homes here, number one, is that as leaders in law firms, we should prepare from a security perspective by design. We don't have to wait to become, the global firms before we prepare. We don't have to wait for going fully paperless before we design. Yeah, we need to build before we enter. And I think for me, you press a very, very significant thing before us as lawyers, as we transit into this journey to the promised land. You talked of two things, which I think for me scratched my back. Number one, the DMS, the Document Management System. Yeah. Some Bujiri will wonder what's a document management system. And the way you describe it is very inspiring. You say, oh, because anybody would want to know that when I have a document on my PC, oh, so if I have designed a security system, I am able to know who downloaded my document, who transferred the document, has somebody attached that document, sent it on an email, who has logged in. And I think those are basics for law firms now to start thinking about. Because, or otherwise, we are not going to carry the before Christ approach of things to the alpha generation. Yeah? And I think for me, that is really, really very important. And you also bring out a very, very key thing, which we take for granted, that as we go paperless, how have we taken on the basics? Things like the logins. If you're having logins that wipe out after 24 hours, then there's a problem. If we are speaking of a new generational law firm and up to date, you actually do, apart from having a router in your office, there is nothing that protects the documents you are having. I think then there is a problem. And that's why this conversation is very, very important for us. I think that takes me to the next set of questions. I would want to compact them for ease of your conversation. We have heard of phishing, okay? And normally, in our perspective, law firms, most of these are outsourced. You have a guy, he says, no, I can install for you something, okay? And, the guy comes and installs for you something, yeah? So the question is, lawyers are routinely sharing documents on WhatsApp, okay? On email, and even Bluetooth. We are not scared. Should we be scared?
Yes. Should you be scared? I think you should. Lawyers hold some of the most sensitive documents. Okay? From time to time, you are holding very critical files before they are needed to go out. Now, within the judicial system, we have confidential documents, your defense documents, or how you might want to call it, what you're going to present to court. At that point, that is a highly sensitive and classified document. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes and no.
Okay.
We'll take the yes.
On the other side, we have judgments that have been passed. I believe that is public information.
Yes.
Okay. So, a lawyer should know what is sensitive and what is not. And it is your responsibility to see that what is sensitive is protected with the highest level of security. Now, there are very many ways in which your file management could be compromised. If you're sharing documents on WhatsApp and it is highly sensitive, And sometimes some people end up throwing it in WhatsApp groups accidentally. Okay? We have also seen an increasing level of laxity. Many people recently, and unfortunately, he's a lawyer as well, but one of my clients came and said, "Oh, I have this problem. My WhatsApp was hacked. I've lost access to it." Okay? Who now has access to that WhatsApp? What information are they holding on to? Okay? In security, we have what we call traffic light theory, where we have red, green, amber. Red documents, which are tagged red, are highly classified documents that should not be made public at all costs. Amber are those that are made only public. I mean, they are only left for the institution. So if it is Diamond Law Advocates and the file is classified as amber, then it can be accessed within the confines of the institution. Yet on the other side, the one which is on green can go public. This is a consideration that a lawyer should have. And if anything, you can also adopt that same approach, the traffic light theory. You find that for many lawyers, because I mentioned that there is lack of sensitivity when it comes to the technologies that do these things, you find that files are being thrown around, Bluetooth, WhatsApp, and all that. There is no attention to the aspect of security. And I think that is something that you should be concerned about. So a simple approach would then be ensure that you classify information. And this comes with, number one, policies within the institution. There has to be policies that defines how we classify information. Secondly, there has to be controls that guard such information from getting out. When we go back to the story, or I mean to the question of DMS, even within a DMS, you can classify that this is this is a red, amber, and green file. So now when it's in red, exporting it cannot just happen anyhow. It has to happen with an authorization. So now we introduce other controls, such as multi-factor authentication. So a file cannot just exit without authorization from the file owner. Okay? The one that is within amber should not exit if it is being sent with a private email. It should only exit when it's being sent, say, with company email. You see that? These kind of controls, if introduced, can help us to promote the highest level of confidentiality on our files. But the simple answer is, should you be concerned? Yes, you should be concerned. Otherwise, you find yourself dealing with unnecessary lawsuits from your own clients again because of negligence.
Wow.
Yes.
You know, Emma, you're scaring us. Yeah, you're scaring us. And that I think for me, I pick one really very key thing. The traffic light theory, the red, amber, and green. You promised me that we are not going to have jargons, but for some reason, you have started throwing the two-factor authentication. Yeah.
You mentioned that the jargons are the trade. The what? Trade.
Our tools of trade.
Tools of trade.
Yes.
I remember they also need to apply some tools of trade.
Yeah. So thank you, because clearly, many a time we don't pay attention to some of these basics, like classification of documents. I mean, a law firm runs, files are in a drawer, and that's it. And if you want to scan documents, you pick a file, scan it, and take it back to the strong room. Who cares? After it's in a strong room, we think we are guarded. But I think for me, there is a blinder you have reopened and said, look, wait a minute. In that laptop of yours, on that desktop of yours, you should have documents classified. But there are some documents that require a two-factor authentication. Yeah? There must be a two-factor authentication. That they cannot be sent out until there is authorization. And I think that points to situations where you are tapping a document and they're saying access restricted.
Very much so.
So I think for me that is an eye-opener to the lawyers, in the documents being sent out with company emails. These conversations appear plain, but I can promise you that we have almost half of law firms do not have websites. They don't. And I'm sure my president will speak to this. They don't. There are no websites. So
I think the problem is big.
yes, you have law firms where the only people who have company emails is the managing partner and some other person. So those are really very, very key flyers. And I think this podcast, Legal Tech Dialogues, is aimed at opening the eyes and ears of lawyers so that we are able to compete as firms on a global scale. Because you are not going to compete on a global scale when you are sending your thing at yahoo.com, at gmail.com. People want to know, is it legit? So I think for me, you are nailing in the right spots. My friend Agure says, Kona wow. So, yeah, I think that is really very grounded. And right in the same space, we have just given us a very good scenario where a person came to you and says, my WhatsApp, I am no longer in control. I am finished. And the person is saying, my friend, I'm going to send these nudes using your phone. Do you have some more? So send some 100 million shillings, boss. And you are panicking. The fellow has access to all your files. And for the record, we keep so many secrets. Yeah? So many secrets. It's because I'm covered, I am duty bound by the client confidentiality clause. I would be telling the listeners your secrets I hold. But I promise I won't because it is unethical.
I have another lawyer who will work on you, sir.
Yeah, so I just want to pick it from there. In a normal day, talk to us about phishing, ransom, and a scenario you have just talked about. How would it come up? That I'm a lawyer, I have my documents on my Android phone, and I wake up and I'm no longer in control. What are those common mistakes from your experience? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, as you rightly mentioned, these are common mistakes, but they fall under what we call social engineering. Social engineering is basically a type of cyber attack that involves use of manipulative techniques to get you to do something that the hacker wants you to do. So in other words, it's an easier approach that grants one access to another to a target system without applying all the necessary technical skills as needed. Think of it as imagine if I called you and I said, hey, Tony, do you want to have a drink? You come and we have a drink. And as you're having a drink, I ask, so how is Diamond Law Advocates? Oh, yeah. Which email system? Maybe you tell me something about your email. You know, I was sending an email, it failed, and all that stuff. Then I said, by the way, which email do you use? Oh, we use Yahoo and all that. Like, yeah, okay. And then these files also, anyway, let's put it in the past. But those file servers are giving me a lot of headache. Then I ask, which file server do you use? Oh, we use this Windows file server and all that. So while you're releasing this information to me, I am documenting it and I am understanding how your IT infrastructure is designed. You don't know it, for you're handing over information freely in a conversation. But on my part, I am documenting your IT infrastructure. When I understand well enough about your IT infrastructure, then it's very easy for me to design the right attack technique to exploit that infrastructure. If I don't know your infrastructure, it's very hard for me to exploit. I would have to put in a lot of effort to know it. Okay? Now, an average lawyer uses their phone for a lot of their work. That's a fact, although it has not been researched. But in Uganda, I know an average lawyer about 50 or 60% of their work is on their phone. At least I've seen that. If this statistic is true, that means by me hacking your phone, I have about 50 to 60% of your documents. I have more than 50% of your, I can control you, all right? Because you are using your phone to do your stuff, chances are your email is also logged into your phone, all right? Now with your email, I have gone to about 80% of controls for what you have. For some, I've already reached 100%, all right? Now, what then would make me, how would I gain access to this? You have rightly mentioned phishing. So now let's define phishing. Phishing is a technique which involves falsifying an email or a message to get one to believe that it's coming from a certain source which is trusted, yet it's actually coming from a different source, which is the hacker. Say, for example, I send you an email addressed as the president, Mr. Semakade, and I have sent you an email saying, oh, Counsel Tony, could you please look at this file for me and advise accordingly? In that statement, I've not disclosed what the file is, right?
Yeah, sure.
So the first thing you have to do is to do what?
Open the attachment.
Open the attachment. Because you need to know what is it that...
Exactly.
Yeah. Opening the attachment, and I have sent you a file which is embedded with a Trojan aspect. That's what we call a reverse access Trojan, RAT. I can embed it on a Word document. I can embed it on a PDF. I can embed it on a picture file. I can embed it on a music file. I can embed it on a video file. So you download the file, and indeed you will see a document that may actually have some gibberish content falsified as coming from Mr. Semakade. What in actual sense you have missed is that behind that file, you have successfully downloaded a malware which has now gone and rooted. We call it rooting. To root means to dismantle the security controls of the core of your operating system, whether be it your Android phone or your Windows phone or your iPhone, whichever. So when it goes and roots that system, it dismantles the security controls. Now I have access to whatever gadget you're holding. How did I do that? I sent you a phishing email or a phishing message, which is also called smishing. When it's a message, we call it smishing, SMS, some funny term like that. So I have sent you that smishing or phishing, and so now I have access to your device. By me having access to your device, what am I trying to achieve? Number one, I now have control of your computer, of your phone or your computer, because I have created what we call a reverse access to my destination. Remember I said reverse access Trojan.
Yes.
Reverse access means that you still have access to your phone, you're still doing your things, but I have a copy of everything you're doing now. You see, that's actually far more dangerous, because I've not stopped you from doing your work. You're still sending your emails, you're sending your photo, you're living your life. You have your WhatsApp, but I also have a copy of everything you do. So whenever you're doing your stuff, I'm looking at everything. I have a copy of all your files, and I can do whatever I want with it. This is a very dangerous approach, and it's one of the most aggressive forms of cyber attacks, which is enabled by phishing. Okay. Within there is what I have also described, which is called business email compromise. Business email compromise is a form of phishing that is very much linked to mimicking someone of authority. Okay, so I gave you an example of Mr. Semakade. Most law firms especially fall vulnerable to this form of attack, because I can send you an email falsifying that maybe I am His Worship so and so, reminding you of a certain case. Maybe I can even tell you, there's this thing I want to help you to close this matter. You people have taken so long on this case. I want to help you close. So you have received a message from magistrate who, quickly you want to look at it because the man has told you he wants to help you finish your case. So that's what we call business email compromise, which is linked to phishing attacks, right? So phishing is a very broad form of cyber attack. In fact, statistically, it is now ranked at 93% of all cyber attacks are being performed using phishing and social engineering. So you can imagine the extent to which this is a major issue. And yet, as you mentioned, it comes out of avoidable mistakes. Because when I'm going to send you these things, I am going to hope that you're gullible enough to click on that link, to want to download that file. Because that's what social engineering does. It takes advantage of the fact that most humans are gullible. We fear easily, we panic easily, we trust easily, we love easily. These elements that get you to fall into line with what an attacker wants you to do. So if I send you something that causes you to panic, then I have you in my hands. I have you right where I want you to be. So that is what phishing and social engineering is.
You know, I thought I would avoid the jargons, but I think I love the jargons. Phishing, smishing.
Yeah.
I think I'm loving that.
Yeah.
Because, you know, these conversations are not for only lawyers. Anybody should actually be worried out there that if you don't have systems in place, does not matter whether you're a law firm or not. If you don't have systems in place that are able to detect some of these things, that are able to flag off a certain email simply because it's likely to be having a Trojan, a Trojan horse, we ought to be very, very sensitive. And thank you for that unpaid for lecture. Yeah.
I'm going to be. I have an invoice.
Unfortunately, it's only lawyers who have what you call as billable hours. For you, but thank you very much, Agara, for really opening our eyes in that angle. I want to throw you on the global turf. Not long ago, the legal aid of UK had to shut down the entire judiciary system. Why? Because the system had been attacked. We are going paperless in the next 2 weeks. Shared for me a picture from a cybersecurity expert point of view of what it can be like when we go paperless, 1st July 2026. Then the next day, boom, huh? The system in one way or another, because of failure to have security safeguards, has been run down. From your perspective, what is at risk?
Thank you. That's a very, very good question. What is at risk? Cyber attacks do not only cost us money, as opposed to what many people think. The natural inclination for many people is to say, how much was taken, right? And when you hear, oh, so-and-so was hacked, 10 billion was lost. Wow, what a loss. Okay? Cyber attacks right now, for example, in the UK market, most institutions are now embracing what we call cyber insurance. And if that's the case, that means money is no longer the biggest problem. I want to draw your attention to what will actually cost the law firm the biggest issue, and that's credibility. Credibility is a very fundamental asset for a law firm. Okay? for as long as a law firm cannot demonstrate their capability to mature digitally, they cannot attract most of these cases that we're dealing with today. Many of your institutions that are your clients are are big institutions. They are big tech giants, or they are big banks, or they are big government facilities. These people want to know that we are dealing with a law firm that is forward thinking, that is digitally mature, that is advanced in the way they do their work. Okay? Imagine if the first thing that we get to know about you is that this law firm gets hacked, people's files fall around anyhowly. Okay? Anyone can find sensitive documents. If I hack this law firm, I can find critical and sensitive documents about their clients. How many clients would want to trust you moving forward?
Surely none.
You see. So, whereas financial loss is always painful and it's known, I want to tell members that that can be recovered using cyber insurance. Credibility, you can't insure it. You can't insure a good name. There is nothing that can save you from when you kill that name. In the business of, in the legal business, I want to know that I can trust you. I want to know that you're capable. I want to know that you can get me off the hook. So trust is another aspect, okay? And trust is not something that you gain in one day. You build it in a very long time, yet you can lose it in one day, all right? In fact, for us in security, we say you can build trust over 20 years and lose it in a single day, all right? So what is at stake? People's names will be at stake. Trust will be at stake. The law firm's credibility will be at stake. The entire system will be at stake. So as we are considering going digital, we must be mindful of these very fundamental assets for any law firm, okay? We must be mindful of this. Otherwise, we're going to find ourselves in a time where we are losing, we cannot attract international businesses. You cannot attract high-end local businesses as well. Yeah.
Wow. You know, you speak to the hearts of the broken ones. You know, Daniel will say, "Tokuba nyo." Because, but you know, that aside, I think you drive a very, very key point. One of the reasons why our law firms are struggling to keep up with the global market space is simply because, one, we have not embraced these technologies. So many times you meet some of these clients in these different travels you make. And the fellow is telling you, oh, you know, I had some work in Uganda, but I gave it to a firm in Kenya, and then they're managing my work in Uganda. Wow. I gave it to a firm in South Africa, and they're managing my work in Uganda. And when you dig deep down, and they say, well, what they are ticking in the box, they're trying to check how secure are our files. Because they're dealing with sensitive data. There's competition. If you're going to, if Dangote is going to trust you with a feasibility study to manage his process here, so that he puts a competing cement factory in Uganda against Toro Cement, but at the same time he is not sure whether you have systems in place for secure movement of documents, then he knows that his trade secrets are likely to end up somewhere. And such a client will not be willing to sign up. Simply because your cybersecurity is weak. And I think for me, you drive the nail right at the center of this conversation. And that takes us to the next segment, which we want to look at the regulation and ethics bit of it. As lawyers, we have a full act which governs our practice, which governs our ethics, including how we bill you. The Advocates Remunerations Act, the Advocates Act, yeah, professional conduct for lawyers, and all this. We even have a body that if we behave badly, they call us law counsel. They can even debar us. You get it? Now,
How many times have you been called there?
yeah, you know, if I will not go to that lane. Well, I've not been called there, and I don't intend to go there. Yeah, I've been groomed by the best. But just right there, that the ethics and the regulatory bit of it, from the cybersecurity point of view, and from your observation, from the law firms you have advised, picking from the National Data Protection Act, looking at the Malabo Convention, looking at all these international statutes which demand on how we are supposed to deal with data, okay? Because they demand that we're supposed to manage data in a particular way, okay? Now that I've given you a background, let me pose my question. You have advised a number of law firms in this country, big law firms, mid-term law firms. What are those ethical issues from the cybersecurity school of thought that lawyers and law firms should pay attention to by virtue of their positions as data collectors, as data controllers from the cybersecurity perspective? I'm posing this question because you reported yourself that you sit on some of these boards. And this is key for us because they say ignorance has no defense. Sometimes we do not know that we are violating some of these cybersecurity laws because we don't know. So over to you, right there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. So when we look at the current laws, what stands out mostly is the Data Protection and Privacy Act, which has a lot of mandates on a data controller, a data processor, data owner. First of all, who is a data owner? A data owner is one who owns the information that is being collected.
Yeah.
So if I am a client of Diamond Law Advocates and I've committed an offense, I have 100 billion, that's my offense.
Yeah. Please come here. When you have that problem, please come
That's
here.
a big problem.
Anything below 100 million, don't come.
Noted. So say I'm a client. When you collect my information, I am a data owner. So I own full rights to that data. Okay? Then there is you, who is a data collector. A data collector is the one who is receiving information from a data owner, okay, in whatever form, whether be it through email, through online portal, through physical copies, you are the data collector. And then we have the data processor, okay? The data processor is the one who is using the information that was collected by the data collector. So if you're using this information to prepare a case in court, if you're using this information to maybe for someone's will, if you're using this information to prepare a transaction, you are a data processor, all right? And then we have a data controller. A data controller is the one who is administering how the data processor is using that information, okay? So for each one of these categories of people, there are different prescribed responsibilities in how they behave, how they manage the data, how they discard it, how they transfer ownership. one of the biggest mistakes that many people make, and including lawyers and law firms, is first of all the assumption that I will take any information I need from you to defend you and I will hold it for as long as I need. That's the number one mistake. The law does not allow you to hold any form of information indefinitely unless it is a matter of national security. All right? That means from the onset, when you're going to collect my information, you must tell me how long you plan to hold on to my data. Okay? If you don't disclose that, and then you hold on to my information, we won a case successfully 1 year ago, you're still holding on to my sensitive information, um, you have already committed an offense. You must discard that information. Another mistake is what at the point of collecting, how much information are you taking? Do you need all the information that you're taking from me? One would say, well, you never know because this is a defense we are going for, or this is a whatever pleading we're going for. I don't know those jargons. I have to be careful when I use it here. But one would say, you never know. Okay, yes, you never know. But there is a law in the Data Protection Act which says you must only take what you need, and that's what we call the law of minimality. Okay? If you're collecting a case, if let's say you have a case against me over land, okay? So you go to the land where the land dispute is, and you start collecting everyone's national ID, name, date of birth, father, mother, grandchildren, next person, name, date of birth, father, mother, grandchildren, neighborhood, go to the shop market nearby. You're collecting personal identifiable information from each of these people in the name of we want to address the issue of this land dispute. These people have nothing directly linked to this case. Maybe they're just neighbors to the land. You have already gone overboard, unless it was maybe a court order, you see. So these simple mistakes can flip around, and a lawyer, I mean, and someone files another case against you for that because you have committed an offense. Or PDPO office can then come after you, you see. Let me give also another example of, and I'm happy that this law was thrown out, the amendment of the 2022 Computer Misuse Act.
Yeah.
I'm happy it was thrown out because it was a little bit stupid, for lack of a better word. I have to say this on camera. Yes, it was stupid. There were several issues in there which were just ridiculous. For example, one of them was you cannot take my photo without my consent. What if I take your photo while you're committing an offense? Do you know that you can go to court and the judge discards that that evidence because that evidence was taken in in an illegal manner. So now a thief has a right to tell you, throw away the evidence about where you were catching me stealing. So these are some of the thin lines in the law, and we hold you guys accountable to ensure that some of these laws make sense. But coming back to our question, you find that some of these mistakes, especially within the data protection, are not something that many people are familiar with. Now, another growing mistake is a question around data sovereignty. It's actually prescribed within the law that any information regarding a Ugandan should primarily be kept within the confines of Ugandan territory, and only a backup may be kept out of Uganda. Now, you have collected my information as a data processor. You're processing this information from a remote server located somewhere in the US. You have no copy of that processing being done within the territory of Uganda. That is an offense. You have actually breached the Data Protection Act, you see. So there are some very common mistakes we're making there. And many of us, if you ask, where are your servers located? No one knows. Why do I need to know? All I know is I have a Google Drive, which is I'm using Google Drive to do my things. If Google Drive does not have a data center in Uganda, and all you're doing is do the work from Google Drive without a copy being done within the boundaries of Uganda, you're actually committing an offense. You see that? Someone can actually use that against you.
Wow.
You see that? So these are some of the common mistakes that we make with that law.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are listening to Chagara Emmanuel, top global cybersecurity expert. And today's conversation is very, very interesting. And it reminds me of a parable in our village. That the only time you get to realize that the party has started is when the children start drumming and the elders start dancing. So when Chakara started now teaching the law, I was like, yes, now the party has started. But what is important here is that, there is this illusion that lawyers know everything. That's the presumption. And I want to demystify that. Lawyers do not know everything, but we read everything. So I think this is an eye-opener. You bring out a very, very key things. And I did it deliberately because I want the point to drive home. As we move into this paperless practice, there's certain things lawyers do not know. Lawyers do not know that for you to collect data, the Data Protection Privacy Act is the effect that you must have a license as a data collector.
Very correct. Very correct.
And if you did a survey, how many law firms have licenses as data collectors, you'll be surprised. So I think for me, this is a conversation which is key. There are basic things we take for granted. So as we move into this paperless frontier, it is important that you need to take some of the things important because you're collecting people's data. When people come into the law firm here, they are registering. Right at the beginning, at the entrance, there is a security guy collecting data. And when you ask him, why am I registering? He says, this book is for Diamond Advocates. Anybody who enters here must sign. And you must also even put your NIN number and your phone number. All that is data being what? Being collected. Yeah. And then when we come in here, and then we are also filling in and logging in, and we are collecting this data. So because I have your NIN number, I have your phone number, all this data is being collected. But do I have the license? Do I have the license as a data collector? And then I am having this data of all my clients. All these big clients, I have Timothy, one of my big dogs. I have his phone number, his national ID. The guy is a big time real estate guy. He's always in one or another transacting on land. Have this Craig Agava, who is always. So what I need is I need to have his copy of national ID here. I have to have probably a copy of his signature somewhere in some of the already signed transfer forms. So I'm collecting data as a data collector. And then this data, where am I keeping it? I tell my friend Akelo Mase, please scan all these documents and put them on our iCloud. We call it our iCloud.
With a lot of pomp.
Yeah. Put them on our Google Drive.
Our Google Drive.
But the Google Drive is in the States. So I am actually transmitting Agaba Craig's data to a third party, processing it to a third party. Absolutely. So I think for me, you drive a very key point that as we move into this paperless frontier, as lawyers, as law firms, there are certain things we now need to pay attention to because they are not going to come up. Yeah. Previously, you had all these files under key and lock in some wooden box somewhere. Now, paperless, you are uploading all your documents, keeping them somewhere in some server which you have no control over. So I think that you drive a very, very key point. Now, I want to recognize the presence of some of our ardent listeners I want to recognize the presence of Zubeda Namugenyi. Eh? Zubeda Namugenyi is one of the lawyers who is doing quite a big job in Muslim arbitration. Quite a unique area.
He's a good friend of mine.
Great. So Zubeda, Chagara is here. He says he's going to be leaving some $1,000 for you. Just look up for me.
Zubeda is more than $1,000.
I also want to recognize the presence of, Dr. Abudu. Thank you for joining in. And just right there, it's 19 minutes to 9. Our time is hard spent already. I would want you to allow me now pick on the questions that have been sent so that we are able to wind this. There is a question that has come through and says, you have described the landscape of sophisticated cyber threats. How real is this threat for a mid-sized law firm in Kampala today? Is this something they should genuinely be? I think that one, yeah, we have talked about something already like that. Then the other question is from David. It says, Uganda's Data Protection and Private Act has been enforced since 2019. Yet many law firms appear to be operating without a data protection policy. From a cybersecurity standpoint, what does the absence of a formal policy mean in practice? What risks does it create? That is from David. Number two is from Helen Namukasa. The UK Cyber Essentials Scheme requires just 5 foundational controls to achieve certification. In your professional assessment, how many law firms would you currently pass even that basic test, and what are the most common gaps you encounter? Let me first give you those two, and then, yeah.
Awesome. These are solid questions. I think we have a very, very brilliant audience.
Yeah, it's a tech savvy lawyers.
You guys are not joking.
They are not playing.
All right. So, number one, policies. Very good question that that gentleman has raised, or lady, I'm not sure. I want to start by answering it this way. Cybersecurity can only be achieved when the following 3 parameters are all at play. Number one, people. The people within the organization must be trained, must know and understand risks, must have capabilities to respond to risks, to detect risks, and to avoid risks, especially cyber risks. Number two, the technologies that are being used within the environment must be of the highest standard, should have the ability to contain and manage any threats, and most importantly, should have the ability to secure the users from any incoming threats. And number three, policies. Policies and processes are very foundational in building an effective cybersecurity program. When we talk about policies and processes, think about it this way. If we have people who are trained, we have talked about phishing and all these forms of attacks, business email compromise. If the people are trained and they know how to avoid these risks, if the technologies that are in place are strong and secure the environment, but if there are no policies and processes that govern, for example, the basics of this is how you design, this is how you set a strong password, this is the duration for which any password should exist within an organization, after which it should be declared obsolete, this is how you access secure environments, this is how we share confidential documents. When these policies are non-existent, even though people are trained, even though technologies are in place, you will still see mistakes being made simply because there are no guiding lights within the organization. So this is why all these three parameters must at all times be in play for one to achieve effective cybersecurity. That's why you will see and hear, oh, Facebook got hacked. And you're like, a whole Facebook with billions of dollars in investments in cybersecurity. How did they get hacked? Then you find that, oh, there was someone who was uploading a file in the repository, but they did not go through the checks and controls for uploading the file. Security vulnerabilities were not assessed, and therefore the file was uploaded with vulnerabilities. So we ask, how come that person made such a lousy mistake? Then you find that there was no policy for what you call change control. All right? Or if the policy was there, this person was not compliant to it. So you see that this is a common mistake which was made simply because of lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge in what? In the policies. All right? So policies should be there, processes should be there, technologies should be efficient, and people should be trained. And a law firm that embraces all of this is now ready to start on the journey of maturity towards cyber resilience. Otherwise, even if you design the best policies and put the best technologies to defend you, but the people are not trained, your secretary is still clicking links, they think they have won a free iPhone, they think they have won free cars. You are down to zero because that is how we are going to hack you. Someone sends you a link saying, congratulations, you have won Toyota Harrier.
Kaundo.
Kaundo. Thank you, Jesus.
Hallelujah.
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 You click. This is how you claim your reward. You see, so these common errors are usually what throws us off balance. So we must train our teams, we must deploy the technologies that can defend these environments, and we must put in place policies, the data protection that we're talking about, to govern how we manage any client data. I've given an example of holding onto data. If your internal data protection policy does not prescribe that we do not hold on to any data, let's say 6 months after the case has been closed, something like that could be a policy. Well, oh, what if they reopen the case? Yes, they can reopen it, but there has to be a policy on how long you hold on to data. Let me give you another funny example. Did you know that a client who you have served at any one point in time from time immemorial, if they come to you and they say, what information do you have about me? You have 14 days to respond to that client. After that, there is a penalty of 4% of your annual revenue, simply because you failed to respond to that client in 14 days. Okay? This is a client maybe you served in 1995, but you have held on to their information, but now you don't know where the information is. That client can sue you and you lose up to 4% of your annual revenue. So that is question on policies. I hope what is well understood. The second one was on cyber essentials. Very good question as well. And just to give a little recap, the UK Cyber Essentials is a very fundamental tool that the UK introduced to help build mature entities. Now, when we think about the history of cyber maturity, we have some popular certifications such as ISO. An institution such as Diamond Advocates could be ISO 27001 certified. That means they are certified in information security management systems. That means according to the ISO standards, they have developed and put in place the necessary controls to protect client information and their internal information against a globally recognized standard. So such an institution would be considered mature in the way they handle client data. But there is a problem there. To get such a certification, you find that you're spending up to $10,000. Okay? Now, for Counsel Kire, that is a small, that's forfeiting lunch for one day. But to some law firms, that is a year's work. Okay. So the UK introduced Cyber Essentials as a simplified alternative to ISO 27701, but which still enables an institution to achieve the basic maturity required to protect themselves of, away from about over 95% of cyber attacks. Within the Cyber Essentials, there are some 5 fundamental pillars that are known. Number one, there is protection of firewalls and routers. Okay, an institution that is compliant to Cyber Essentials should have in place the basics such as firewalls and routers. Number two, they should have in place um, security controls in those firewalls and routers and in the end user computers that protects the users. Number three, they should have in place encryption mechanisms that protect this information. This is information that you're sending over email, that you're storing in your computers, should be having this mechanism. Also, there should be user access control. Okay, an institution should put in place necessary user access control. We talked about two-factor authentication and all that. So those are all access controls. But then also another access control is who has access to this information and why. In other words, information should be granted only on what we call on a need to know basis. You don't need to know everything just because we're working within the same law firm. You see that? So that is what we call need to know basis. Then, of course, the fifth one is security update and management. So you find that when the UK Essentials, I mean, the UK, that is actually a National Cybersecurity Center, NCSC, came up with this. They introduced it to help the SMEs, to help the SMEs put in place their necessary controls. Now, they went ahead and provided certifications for it. So, an institution such as Milima could become a cyber essential provider for as low as $500 or £500. So, at the end of the day, we have reduced it from 10,000 to all the way to about £500, significant value to the SME. But now back to the question. How many law firms in Uganda match up against these 5 fundamental pillars? That is a question for us to ask. And from what I mentioned earlier, quite a number of law firms have not put in place cybersecurity controls. Okay, just a second. So you find that most law firms are applying the basics. If anything, maybe the routers and firewalls are all they have. Issues around user access control, issues around malware security, issues around security configurations and controls are not there. There was an institution that we did a security audit for. It's a law firm. And they had a Wi-Fi, which everyone was in it. Everyone had single access to that Wi-Fi. Their servers also, the file servers, could also be accessed using the same Wi-Fi without any security controls. The guests who come into the organization, when they say, oh, give me access to your Wi-Fi, that password they give grants that guest access to every other resource in the organization. You see that level of negligence? This is just one example of an institution that we did a security audit for. But there are very many of the same nature. So you find that there is no network segmentation, there are no security controls, there's no user access management. People is basically laissez-faire. So I think these are important areas for us to learn and reflect on, and we start putting in place necessary controls towards maturity.
the conversation just gets sweeter and sweeter. You know, I'm sure my friend Gava Craig, when you were preaching this gospel, is remembering saying, by the way, don't we have the same password for the clients who come in? Whoever can say, what's the password for the Wi-Fi?
If them the same.
It's the same. So I think you portray very, very.
And not only that, it has been the same since 2020.
And not only that, it is as simple as the Office 2000. So I think you really throw a very, very big firewall in the law firm theater, because clearly these conversations, many firms take them so mild. The things firms have been taking for basics, yeah. And now I realize why, when you started this conversation, when you said, "Who is Chagara?" the man says, "I am ISO 2701 certified."
Thank you.
I get it. But I think for me also the take home is that you do not need your entity that does not have the capacity to raise $10,000, which is 36 million thereabout, does not necessarily have to do that. But you can have a way of falling within the essentials, which you have narrated. Why do we have these conversations, Emma? You are not a lawyer, but these conversations, we do this because we want to prepare to create a platform for our law firms to be able to compete on global scale. And these are basics, so that we move away from this traditional practice of basic things. So having you here is really, for me, really very important, not only for me, but for the tech-savvy lawyers, for forward-thinking lawyers, for lawyers who are thinking outside practicing just within our locality. Yeah, lawyers who are thinking of representing multinational entities. So I really want to thank you for those submissions. Without necessarily trying to dilute what you have submitted, I will go back to now the next two questions here. Okay. Okay. There is a gentleman here from Centex Advocates. He is called James Serumaga. James Serumaga says, you have described what a proportionate cybersecurity posture looks like for a Ugandan law firm. But for a solo practitioner in our village in Masaka, operating on a tight budget with limited IT support, what are the three most important things they can do right now before July 1st, 2026, as we go into the paperless economy? Thank you very much for that very, very good question. I think it has also swept me off the feet.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very, very good question. When we talk these things, it's very easy for us to localize our thinking to just a Kampala practitioner, to the big law firms of Diamond Advocates and the likes. Yet we have lawyers across the country. Whenever I am faced with such a question, my simple answer, and the same that I'm going to give right now, is the first thing to do is seek knowledge. Seek knowledge. There is a lot of free information online for you to learn more about these things beyond this podcast today. There are even simple courses of cybersecurity basics that you can take as a lawyer. I must say, in the 21st century and in our industry 4.0, any lawyer who has no digital skills or no understanding of cybersecurity has already put themselves at a very high disadvantage. In terms of opportunities, we're moving to a time where some of the biggest cases you're going to be faced with are cybercrime related cases. It is up to you to choose to throw away such bread and say, me, I'm holding on to the traditional crime that I know. Okay? Fraud, for example, fraud is right now one of the biggest uh, crimes that we're dealing with within the financial sector, whether be it traditionally enabled, such as loan fraud and all this falsifying of documents, or be it the digitally enabled fraud. You find that these are crimes that are being committed, and many people out there are now seeking legal redress. So, for a lawyer of any category, anywhere in this country, I encourage you to look and seek information on issues around cybersecurity. Take on a basic course in cybersecurity. You started by introducing me as the CEO of Milima Cyber Academy. Milima Cyber Academy is a cybersecurity training institute, and we train individuals across all experiences to pick on skills in cybersecurity. You will be shocked to learn that a large percentage of the people we have trained in cybersecurity are lawyers. There was one lawyer who we trained. She was then a lawyer. She was later appointed a magistrate, and she's now officiating some of the most popular cybercrime cases. And it all came from that certification that we trained her in. So don't throw away these opportunities for you to learn issues around cybersecurity, at least at a basic level. You don't need to go into the how to create a remote access Trojan. But at least you should be able to understand what cybersecurity is and how to put up in place those controls. But besides that, I also encourage that as a lawyer, we have talked about some of these tools that you're moving with every day, your phone, your laptop, your cloud services. Ensure that there are security controls on them. All right. We have talked about phone. You don't have, your phone has no security on it. Your phone is outdated. There are no security controls that can defend you. You don't receive updates from the manufacturer. Already there, you're putting yourself at a risk. Your laptops have no antivirus. Okay, these basics. A ransomware falls in your machine and just encrypts everything. You have no defense at all against any form of attack. Yet this is your tool of trade. I think you have to be more careful, even if you are a lone wolf somewhere in Masaka or in Mbale, you should be able to put in place these controls. Um, Over and above that, we recommend that any system that you have, ensure that the logins have multi-factor authentication. What is multi-factor authentication? If you're logging into your email, do you just use a password, or do you use a password and an OTP from your SMS from the phone? There should be an extra, that additional one is what we call two-factor. All right. So if I'm logging into my email, at least let it log in with a what? With an OTP from the phone. If you're logging into any of your file servers where you're keeping sensitive information, ensure that you have those basics. On your computer, ensure that you have a strong password. The access points that you're using, ensure that they are secure and they are segmented. Okay? These are fundamental basics that you should have with you, um, to ensure that at least you are protected from the simple attacks. Imagine you have a case tomorrow, and today a ransomware has hit your computer and you have lost all the files. For those who don't know what a ransomware is, as the word ransom is, this is a malware that encrypts your computer and demands a ransom, demands a pay in exchange for decrypting. So it can tell you, pay us $500 for us to decrypt your computer. Now you're a simple law firm who is trying to get today's bread, and someone is saying, first look for $500. I think there you are. You're already at a high risk.
Yeah.
So these are some of the basics that you should put in place as you embrace technology. But please seek more knowledge. Take on courses, take on trainings. Do not only study law stuff. Go and study a simple cybersecurity course. Come to Milima Cyber Academy, go elsewhere. Get on those courses.
Seek knowledge, seek knowledge, seek knowledge. Nakali akaisizaawo, go to Mirima Cyber Academy. That is okay.
You have to make sure. Since you did not pay me to come here.
But I think, seriously, you raise very, very key things. Yeah, somebody was giving me an example, then they was saying that lawyers protect their phones with facial recognition patterns more than their documents in firms. So I think you really raise a very, very key thing. And thank you. I want to, in the interest of time, let me look at the last two questions that have been sent out here. Goodness, I wish we can have this conversation forever, but unfortunately we can't. We have somebody here. Okay, this one is from KIU, Kampala International University. And he says, my name, this is Juru? Okay. David Juru something. Well, I failed to mention the name, but I'll take David. The UK's ICO accountability framework requires organizations to conduct data protection impact assessments before adopting new technology. Should the Ugandan judiciary have done a formal DPIA before rolling out digital court systems? And if that process was skipped, what are the consequences? That is David Jurum. I'm a master's student at KIU. That's question number. Then let me also run out. I think run that one, then I will go to the last one here. Then we'll be able to do that. Very complicated conversations.
Very complicated questions.
If you thought lawyers don't know these things, my friend.
Hey, I'm in a den of lions.
Yes, sir.
I'm in a den of lions.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So ICO is Information Control Office. That is the UK office charged with overseeing the implementation of the UK General Data Protection and Regulations Act, GDPR. So he's saying that they did not implement.
I will read for you the question again. By this Juru something, Jurum. It says the UK's ICO accountability framework requires organizations to conduct data protection impact assessments before adopting new technology.
All right. So that
should Uganda's judiciary have done a formal DPIA before rolling out digital court systems? And if that process was skipped, what are the consequences? I am trying to guess this Jurum man, since he's a master's student, this could be coursework.
I am almost
we must
sure.
be doing coursework for this Jurum man, but it's okay.
I am almost certain.
Those are the benefits of tuning into Legal Tech Dialogues.
Yes.
So let us do this coursework, sir.
So thank you, Mr. Juru. And after we have finished this, please also I will leave my mobile money number. Yes. So data impact assessment is an exercise that is conducted prior to implementation of any system to help assess, first of all, the compliance with the data regulations of that jurisdiction. So in this case, Uganda has the Data Protection and Privacy Act, and we have talked extensively about the many laws, the prescriptions within that law. However, within that law, there is no requirement for one to conduct an impact assessment. At least I have not seen it within the Uganda's DPPA. However, it is there in the GDPR. It requires the data protection and impact assessment that any firm that is going to conduct an assessment, deploy a system, should conduct an assessment to see is it compliant, what are some of the vulnerabilities that we're going to see, how are we going to address the existing vulnerabilities post-implementation, okay? So now it talks about the various activities that should be engaged to remediate any identified vulnerabilities. Now, because we don't have it within our law, you cannot hold the judiciary responsible if they didn't conduct it. Now, according to his question, he's saying they did not. Okay, so I don't know whether they did or did not, but if they did not, there is no law that they have breached by not conducting an impact assessment. However, conducting an impact assessment is an industry recommended exercise. In fact, it is there in the ISO 27001, and I want to believe that we also have it in our National Information Security Framework, which was a framework that was released by NITA in 2023, 23 or 24. But we have had earlier versions also that were released. So the National Information Security Framework prescribes how institutions should apply various security controls in protecting their information. This is not a law, but a framework. A framework, think about it as a strong recommendation. Okay? So, similarly, if the judiciary is, for example, implementing ICMIS, there has to be an exercise conducted prior to deployment and also post deployment to ensure that there is compliance fully to the act. And this should be a similar practice that I encourage every law firm to also have, such that we're not just doing things for the sake. Most times we do a lot of stuff for the sake. We just put technologies. In fact, for us in software development, we used to say, if it is working, don't touch it. Don't touch. But yet you have not conducted any impact assessment of what are some of the risks
True.
that you are going to be dealing with when you deploy such a system. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you very much. I want to recognize the presence of Namugera. Namugera is one of our ardent listeners, and he has also a lot of passion in the tech area. We should host him one day. And also, dear young lawyer, you know, these conversations make a lot of sense when you are between 20, 25, when you are in the millennial, Gen Z, Alpha. That's why when you check on this call, I can tell you if we carried out the average age of our listeners here. There are very few in your age bracket.
You're bad. I'm a young man. You're on your own.
But you know, you're welcome, Mr. Namugera, and the dear young lawyer, Mr. Kamwada. I can see you on call, and so many others. We can't mention you all. Mr. Mudaki Julius, you're welcome. We are listening to Lego Tech Dialogues. Let me take you to, I think it is the last question, because which has been sent. Yeah, I like when ladies send questions. Yes. My name is Najuma. I am doing my master's of laws from Makerere University. I love what you are doing. I have a lot of passion in cybersecurity. Here is my question. If you were advising the Law Council of Uganda today on a single regulatory reform that would have the greatest positive impact on cybersecurity across legal profession, what would it be? Now, Najuma, you are presuming that our guest understands what is called Law Council. But for the purpose of this conversation, the Law Council is the regulatory body that regulates lawyers. Okay? So Najuma is saying that if you were advising the Law Council of Uganda, the body that regulates us, today, on a single regulatory reform that would have great positive impact on cybersecurity across the legal profession, what would that be? The good thing, the president, Isaac Chimeze Semakade, sits on the Law Council. Therefore, you are advising the Law Council in the present, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Today I have, I think after this podcast, I should get an LDC certificate really. Or something. There has to be something that shows that I'm a lawyer. I can't just walk away for free. But thank you. Thank you for that very wonderful question. Now, I'm going to answer this based on a research that we recently conducted. And it is still, this paper has not yet been passed out, but I can throw in a snippet of this because it's also based on on another study that was conducted by Legomark Advocates. Legomark is one of those leading firms as well in the country. Now, this was part of a study that was funded by Financial Sector Deepening Uganda, FSDU, on assessing the gaps within the Uganda's law, especially that addresses issues around fraud and cybercrime. Now, the one singular thing, of course, when you say one and singular is the same, but you say the English, we have to, it's the trend, okay? The one important thing that we identified in that study was the weakness in the Computer Misuse Act that prescribes very weak penalties for cybercrime. As you know very well, the fight against cybercrime cannot be achieved in the absence of strong laws in the country. In our country, we were one of those people who enacted Computer Misuse Act quite early. 2011 we already had. Some countries only got it around 2013, 2015. But even though we enacted our law early, you'll find that the maximum punishment for a cyber crime, for one who is convicted of cyber crime, the maximum punishment is, I think, about 15 years. And I need to check currency points, the number. But something that is really manageable. Do you know what the minimum punishment is? It is community service.
Kwera lugudo. Can sweep the road.
Sweep. Now, I can go to a bank, make out with 20 billion shillings, which, by the way, is easy to steal.
Say that again, because I can see Agri is paying a lot of attention.
Yes. You can go and steal 20 billion, all right?
And it is easy to steal.
And you go to court, and they give you a penalty of community service because the law allows, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
The law allows. So, if that is true, then we are creating a lot of avenue for crime to flourish in this country. So, number one, there has to be a revision on the maximum penalty. There also has to be a revision on the minimum penalty. By the time, because you see, one of the things that we don't know and don't see is how much institutions are losing to cybercrime every day. Across the board, whether be it in the financial sector or in the judicial system sector or whichever spaces, people are losing significantly to cybercrime. And yet, if we know that there are no strong laws in the country, people will do whatever they want. There was a time when IMF flagged us, put us on the gray list because of the extent of money laundering that we were enabling in this country. We had no controls around anti-money laundering. We had very weak laws against countering financing of terrorism, okay? So because we did not have strong laws in these areas, we enabled various forms of fraud and money laundering to pass through our economic system. It was only after they put us on grey list that we became serious and started putting in place certain controls, laws, and policies. Now we are seeing a growing rate of cyber attacks because a hacker knows even if I'm arrested, I can get away. All right? If I appropriate that 20 billion, I've moved out very easily. Some piece goes to the various organs of the system. I go away with my 10 bar and sip pina colada somewhere in Bahamas. You see that?
Yeah.
So,
hear you.
So the single advice I would ask our lawyers and the Uganda Law Society is help us to tighten that law. Help us to tighten that law. If there is strong punitive action against cybercrime, then we're going to see a reduction in it. Otherwise, hackers are going to be flourishing in this country, and we're always going to be chasing wind.
Wow. The President, Uganda Law Society, is on this call, and I can assure you, you have preached the gospel right to the already converted. Ladies and gentlemen, it is 20 minutes past 9. When I was requesting this man to come, one of his conditions were, my wife wants me at home at 9. And you remember so well, in his starting conversation, he had to ensure that he reports all the existing assets. So whereas this conversation is really very, very beautiful, we won't hold him very, very long. I want to now invite our President, Isaac Semakade. A number of questions and concerns, you realize they touch the Uganda Law Society as a body. They also make a clerical calls. And it would be very unchristian of me not to give him an opportunity to speak to us. And also I want to implore him to use this platform to share with us the position of Uganda Law Society on the position of the judiciary, to the effect that in the next 3 weeks, all courts that are onboarded on the ICMIS system are going paperless. Mr. President, I am sending you a speaker. You could send up a speaker request, and I will be able to approve. In the meantime, as the President is sending in a speaker request, I want to thank you for these very, very powerful submissions. It's not every day that we tackle these kind of topics. And just like the gospel of Jesus, sometimes we don't expect instant impact. But we know for a fact that time is going to come when these conversations are going to impact bigger than we think. They tell us that Jesus had only 12 disciples. Those were the ones he was sure. That when I go this way, they are with me. When I go this way, they are with me. Others would wait when there is a party. When there is that wedding and 5,000 appear. Tomorrow when there is no party. So these conversations, we know for a fact that will not stop. And as we wait for President Isaac, I don't know if he is still on, we will open the mic. If you have a question for the direct call and you're not able to send the same to our inbox, send a request, press on your button, and you'll be able to see your request come through. We'll approve you, and you'll be able to ask your question. Yeah, if you have a question, please feel free to press your button, and we'll be glad to listen to you. Yeah, so as we wait on, I think for me, I would want to summarize for what I've noted down here among your recommendations. You talk about digital literacy. It is important that we get to learn as lawyers, take on some of these courses. You also talked about implementing end-to-end encrypted communication, things like email, where you talked about the two-factor authentication. In this new era, which you have called 4.0, you know, you keep throwing these technologies, but I can tell you the lawyers are up to date.
Yeah.
Web 4.0. In this era of Web 4.0, there is no reason why when you are logging in your email, you just go straight. There must be some OTP, some message dropping on your phone that please enter code 87012 before the email proceeds. I think the other thing you said is that it is very, very important to conduct cybersecurity risk assessments. You also warned us that we should have zero trust network architecture that is able to verify user and device every time. You also told us that we need to have multi-factor authentication. I also noted that. And you also told us it is important as we prepare for the paperless frontier to ensure there is regular staff training on phishing, vishing, and social engineering human behavior. And you also have advised us that we need to have legally compliant cloud providers. So I think those are some of the few things among others that I noted down. Unfortunately, I do not see the president. It seems he has lost network, but that as it may, I want to thank you, Mr. Chagara Emmanuel, for these very, very insightful conversations. You know, giving out free knowledge, more especially to lawyers. You know, for us, we bill for everything, even for just coming, even just appearing, we bill. But for you being so courteous and being knowledge democratic, that you are able to come and talk to lawyers, train them, do things for free. I know for a fact that you bill so highly for this kind of advice. But we want to thank you for exercising what the lawyers call the indigent policy. The indigent policy is where you say, when somebody is an indigent in our profession, we say he's a poor of the poorest. So that one you don't charge, you go for service for free.
I have backed all of you. Just know I will kubanja one by one.
And I also want to thank my producers and you know, Agri and the team, and also my staff here, and also my sponsors, Diamond Advocates. I have to keep reading. You know, if I don't mention their name, there is a likelihood that they will cut the budget. Yeah. So I want to thank them for sponsoring this show. And I also want to thank the listeners who take their time on a Thursday and listen to us. Thank you very, very much. We can't go beyond this. I want to wish all of you a good night and thank you for tuning in. We look forward to having you next Thursday, same time. And the video, our YouTube channels are up and running. You can find a number of our discussions on our YouTube channels. Legotech Dialogues. Simply search Legotech Dialogues and you'll find very, very interesting information. Why should you be in that traffic jam listening to Nkudi? Honestly, lawyer. No. Let us be able to put on, you know, some of these and have this knowledge, you know. So we have uploaded a number of them thanks to our studio team. They're doing a great job. And also thank you for people like you who are able to share this knowledge. We look forward to having you next Thursday, same time. And we follow us on our YouTube channels, follow us on our TikTok handle, Legotech Dialogues, LTech Dialogues for the TikTok handle, and Legotech Dialogues for the YouTube. Thank you very, very much. And we want to wish you a good night. May the good Lord bless you.